So as we just heard, we're now concluding the festival of Chanukah. And around the world, it's still Chanukah right now. So we're now participating here from Israel together with everybody around the world. In different Hasidic sources, we're taught that Chanukah is the holiday of Avraham Avinu. Even though it's the last of the 620 commandments that we have in the Torah, 613 from the written Torah, and then another 7 from the rabbis, altogether 620, which equal the word keter, crown, and the last of which is the seal of all of the mitzvot of the Torah, is Chanukah. It's the last commandment that we were given. Nonetheless, it relates back to the very first Jew, that the first Jew is Abraham, Avraham Avinu. And what's the connection between Chanukah and Avraham Avinu? That it says that Avraham hitchil lahayir. Abraham began shining light to the world. Before Abraham, the world was in a state of darkness. Actually, Abraham, he concludes the first 2 millennia of creation, which are considered to be chaotic and dark. And then he appears on the scene of the world, and he converts. He's considered Rosh Kol Hagerim, the first and the head of all righteous converts. And he begins to shine the light of faith in one God, and goodness, that is his spiritual attribute is kindness and goodness to all of the world. And that's exactly the message of Chanukah. That the holiday of Chanukah is called Pirsumei Nisa, that we reveal, manifest the miracle of Chanukah, which is both the victory over the Hellenistic culture, together, and especially the tremendous supernatural miracle of the lighting of the menorah for 8 days with just a little amount of oil that was enough for 1 day. So Hanukkah is a holiday of light. It's a holiday of pure olive oil. That's the way the menorah was did in the temple. And the light of the pure olive oil is the light of the Torah in general, and especially it's the light of the inner dimension of the Torah, because oil represents the mysteries of the Torah, Razin, and the mysteries of the Torah. And so at the very end of all of the 620 commandments of the Torah, we go back to the dedication of the life of the first Jew, to spread light and to teach Torah, not just the revealed dimension of the Torah, but the inner mysteries of the Torah to the whole world. So that's a very auspicious message that Chanukah carries with it. And if the question was just asked before, what do we do when Chanukah is about to conclude? So now we have a mission to perform for the whole year around until we get another influx and input of new energy next year. But for this 8 days, 8 is supernatural, above nature. We receive the power now to take the light of Chanukah and to continue in the work and the mission of Abraham Avinu to spread the light to the whole world. When we say the whole world, of course, we mean both the Jewish world and the non-Jewish world, the whole world. In the time of Abraham, there were not yet Jews. So all of the light that he spread to mankind, humanity in general. So what we're going to now discuss today is that since Chanukah, we're taught, is the holiday of Abraham. even though it appeared in history much later. But it's the holiday of Abraham. What about the next holiday that's coming up? The two holidays that were enacted by the rabbis are Chanukah and Purim, and in the cycle of the year they follow one another, even though historically Purim was before Chanukah. But in the cycle of the year, from Chanukah, also if the question is asked, what do we do after Chanukah? So we now begin to prepare for Purim, because that's the next special date in the Jewish calendar. And these are actually the two festivals of the rabbis. After the festivals, the three festivals of the Torah, and Shabbat and everything that we have in the 5 books of Moses. Just like Chanukah is related to Abraham, that he spreads the light to the whole world. Once more, it's called Pirsumei Nisa. He reveals the miracles of God to the whole world. So we're taught that Purim is the holiday of his son, of the next father, the next patriarch. That the second patriarch of the Jewish people is Isaac, Yitzchak Avinu. Why is Purim the festival of Yitzchak Avinu? The Chanukah is the festival of Avraham Avinu. First of all, we know that Yitzchak liked to make big, joyful, su'udot meals. He would eat and he would drink. He liked wine, especially when he called his firstborn Esau to go out and hunt for him and bring him a meat, and then he would eat delicious food that as he knew how to prepare. So afterwards, what happened? And then of course, it was in order that he should, before he passes away, he should bless his son for the sake of revealing desire, spiritual desire and energy in the soul to bless his son. So what did Rebecca do? Rebecca heard the conversation between the father and the son, and she obviously didn't want the blessings to go to her firstborn, Esau. She wanted that Jacob should receive the blessings. So she told Jacob to go and take two goats, zizim, from the flock, and that she should slaughter, and she'll prepare the food that it tastes just like the deer that Esau was about to bring, and that Jacob should pretend. She brought the clothing of Esau and made him appear as though he was hairy. As Esau was a hairy person. Jacob was chalak, was without hair. But she dressed him up just like Esau, and he went in and he appeared to be, so his father was blind, Isaac. And he said that he's Esau, and his father ate from the food, and then at the very end, before the blessings, and this was what we wanted to come to, it says, Vayavelo yain bayesh. In order that he should bless him, so Jacob brought him wine. And whoever knows the way that the Torah is sung, which is called the Ta'amei HaMikra, the cantillation of the Mikra, there's a very, very special ta'am. Ta'am means both taste, and it means the musical note or way the Torah is sung. On that phrase, Ve'avei lo yain bayesht. And after he drank the wine, then he was aroused to bless, and he blessed the blessing that he thought he was giving to Esau. He, in fact, blessed his righteous son, Yaakov, Jacob. So he liked to eat and he liked to drink, and the drinking aroused in him the blessing from the highest sources, that those blessings that as though by mistake he blessed Jacob instead of Esau, come from the very highest source of all of the blessings in the Torah. he was in a state of ad lo yada. What does it say about Purim? Purim says that you have to drink until you enter a state of you don't know between Baruch Mordechai, blessed is Mordechai, and Aru Rahman, and cursed is Haman. So that's exactly the state that Isaac reached when he drank from the wine. That he himself was in doubt, because he said, Akol Kol Yaakov, the voice sounds like Jacob. But the hands, when he touched his hands, he felt the hands with the hairy hands. He said, the hands are the hands of Esau, of Esau. So he was in a state of, we'll call it existential doubt. That state of existential doubt is exactly the state that we reach on Purim. We're commanded to reach on Purim. And who are Mordechai and Haman, the blessed Mordechai of Purim and the cursed Haman of Purim? They themselves are a reincarnation of Jacob and Esau, because Haman comes from Esau. He's Amalek. And Mordechai is, of course, comes from Yaakov. So he drank, and he reached that state of ad lo yada, of not knowing between the two. And from that state, he blessed. And once more, those blessings that he gave in that state are the very highest blessings in the entire Torah. V'na'afochu. The most important phrase of Purim is that it turned over for the good. That the blessing, he thought initially he was planning to bless Esau, but it turned over and Jacob received the blessings from his father Isaac. So once more we're taught that Chanukah is the holiday of Abraham, and Purim is the holiday of Isaac. So that's very special, very straightforward, and special teaching. And not everybody is aware of this teaching. How does that correspond to the Sefirot in Kabbalah? In Kabbalah, the Sefirot are the lights and the channels of divine life force through which God creates and recreates continuously the world. So we know that Abraham is chesed, is loving kindness. It's the first of the 7 emotive attributes of the heart. And Yitzchak, Isaac, is gvura. Gvura is might, and it's the second. He follows Abraham, the second of the emotive powers of the heart. Abraham is love, and Isaac is fear. One of the most important elements about Purim, it says that because of the miracle of the V'na'afochu, that the Jews were about to be exterminated, chas v'shalom, and they were all saved. So it says that many of the Amei Haaretz, means of the non-Jews present, miti Yahadim, became Jewish, converted, ki nafal pachad haYehudim alehem, because the fear, the fright of the Jews fell on them. And then it says also that even the officers of the government were in a state of awe from the Jewish people because of Pachad Mordechai, that the fear of Mordechai. So in 2 verses it says that the emotion that was aroused in the nations that experienced, that witnessed the miracle of Purim was Pachad. That word Pachad, who does it relate to? It's another explicit reference and relationship between the holiday of Purim and Isaac. Because the word Pachad, there are several words for fear, but the word Pachad is exactly the word that is used in the context of Isaac, how he served God. He served God with Pachad Yitzchak, the Pachad of Isaac. And to the extent that not only was he in a state of awe in relation to God, but that God himself, he referred to God as Pachad. That phrase Pachad Yitzchak means that God, for Isaac, is his fear. So it actually is a connotation that refers to God himself, Pachad Yitzchak. And that very experience is the experience that all of the nations had. And it is an experience that brought them, actually it served to motivate the non-Jewish world to come close to the Jewish world, each one in his way. Whereas Chanukah was the difference between Chanukah, that once more we're still in Chanukah. That Chanukah, which comes after, chronologically, it's after Purim. Chanukah is the way that Mashiach is going to bring back all of the nations. And whoever is worthy, every soul that is worthy to convert must convert in order that Mashiach comes. But not through Pachad. Pachad is the way of Purim. But Chanukah is the holiday of Abraham. And Abraham is love. So even though the witness is seeing the tremendous miracles of Chanukah, which include the victory of the Chashmonaim, the Maccabim, over the Hellenistic world. But the essential miracle is the light of the menorah, and to light, the soul is drawn with love. It's all the light of Abraham. And the way the non-Jewish world is to be attracted, and like a magnet to bring back all of the souls that really belong to the Jewish world, is through love. So actually these two holidays, both of them have to do with bringing sparks from the non-Jewish world to the Jewish world. But Chanukah is through love, which is Abraham, and Purim is through fear. When you're afraid, it's good to drink. That sweetens the fear, but nonetheless, it's Pachad, Purim. But once more, Chanukah is love. It's a holiday of love, and it's spreading light. Light and love are synonymous. The word light, or, is love. Even the word love itself is an acronym for Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the initial letter spell love. The light of the Holy One, blessed be He. God's light. Divine light. Right, so now we've begun with these two pillars of the two holidays that in the year and the cycle of the year, they come one after the other. First Chanukah, then Purim, and chronologically, first Purim and then Chanukah. And Chanukah being the very last of the mitzvot of the Torah, it also goes back to the beginning, and it also ushers in the Messianic era. If there's one holiday that is the holiday of Besorah, of bringing the tidings of the Messianic era, of ushering in the Messiah, is Chanukah. So it's obvious that what we do after Chanukah, we continue to bring Mashiach, because Chanukah is a holiday to bring Mashiach, the Messiah, to the world with love. So what this suggests, and now what we're going to continue this evening, or today or this morning, wherever we happen to be around the globe, is to now take this lead that Chanukah and Purim are Abraham and Isaac, which are the two first emotive powers of the heart, loving kindness and might, which is fear. And maybe we can develop this into a full partzuf. A full partzuf means to identify other related things like Chanukah and Purim, which means holidays of the year. What we're now going to do is take the full cycle of the year and try to relate it to all of the Sefirot, all of the 10 or 11 channels, if we include Dat, the channels of creation, and see how it all flows in the very order of the Sefirot. Once more, the lead, the beginning, is that we now have made a relatively new identification, that Chanukah is Chesed and Purim is Gvura. Because when we study Kabbalah and Chassidut in general, not always do we have this correspondence. Very often, Chanukah and Purim, even in the writings of the Arizal, Chanukah is Netzach, which is victory, and Purim is Hod, which are actually the two branches under Chesed and Gvura. Sometimes it even says the reverse, that Purim is Netzach and Chanukah is Hod. And there are many, many different ways to correspond between the holidays of the year, the cycle of the Jewish year, and the Sefirot. Obviously, every holiday must relate specifically to one of the Sefirot, just like every soul, even though every soul has an inter-inclusion of all the powers and all the Sefirot in it, but it has a one predominant Sefirah, just like every person has one predominant sense that he is most identified with, just like there are 12 tribes. Each tribe has its predominant sense, even though it includes all of them. So the same is true with the holidays. And once more, there are many ways to see the correspondence, the one-to-one correspondence between the cycle of the year and the Sefirot. But what we have now begun with Chanukah and Purim once more presents a way which is perhaps the simplest, most direct way to correspond the whole cycle of the year to the flow of the Sefirot. The flow of Sefirot is also all of the powers of the soul, as God has created us in His image. Beginning with Keter, with the super rational crown of the soul, which is all of the unconscious and superconscious powers of the soul, and concluding with Malchut, with kingdom, which is the last of the 7 properties of the heart. Where does the year begin? The year begins with Rosh Hashanah. New Year. The first day of the year, of the Jewish calendar. This first day of the Jewish calendar, in a certain sense, is the most universal holiday of the Torah, because you can say that all the holidays of the Torah that have to do with the Exodus, or with miracles, also Chanukah and Purim, miracles that happened to the Jewish people as a Jewish people, so maybe it only relates to the Jewish people. But there's one holiday that for sure relates to the whole world, and should be immediately accepted by the entire world to be its new year. Right now we're in a time of different Goyish New Years, but there's the real New Year, which is the New Year for all peoples. The New Year is the day that God created the world, or created the first man, Adam. And whoever is a descendant of Adam, Adam Arishon, the first man, has to do with his birthday, his soul root. And that year is the year that God judges not just the Jewish people. The new year is the new year for all peoples on earth, that God judges all peoples. So there's no other holiday which explicitly relates to everyone except the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, the first. And now what does Rosh Hashanah mean? Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. We don't say New Year, we say the head of the year. In Kabbalah, head is the crown. It's not just the conscious or the mind of all of the Sefirot. It's what's above the mind. Because the mind begins with the Reshit. It's called the beginning of consciousness. Reshit Chokhmah, the beginning of wisdom. But the Rosh, the word just head by itself in Kabbalah is a connotation for the crown, which is before the conscious beginning of experience. In the Torah, Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year, is just one day. But later in the time of the sages, we celebrate Rosh Hashanah 2 days. And even when Mashiach will come, Rosh Hashanah will remain to be 2 days. Now in Israel, at all of the other holidays, there are 2 days in the diaspora, but they're just 1 day in Israel. But Rosh Hashanah is 2 days here. There's something about the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah that even though it was enacted later, at a later point in history, but it is something which is eternal, in place and in time. It means in Israel, Rosh Hashanah has 2 days, and it will always have 2 days. And around the world, even after Mashiach will come, Rosh Hashanah will continue to be 2 days. All of the other holidays in diaspora will become 1 day, because the land of Israel will spread to encompass the whole world. But Rosh Hashanah will remain 2 days forever. Why? It says because in the head, which is the supernal crown, there are 2 dimensions. It's the only Sefirot that has 2 dimensions to it. An inner dimension, which is called the Ancient of Days, in Hebrew, Atik Yomin, and the outer dimension, which is called the long or infinite countenance, Arich Anpin. In the soul, they correspond to the supernal, we can even call it ecstasy or pleasure principle of the soul, and the supernal will of the soul. What do we do on Rosh Hashanah? What is the service of Rosh Hashanah? The service of Rosh Hashanah is to coronate the king. That's the expression. Hachtarat HaMelech in Hebrew. So we see explicitly that the idea of Rosh Hashanah is related to the crown. To coronate means that you put that we, by accepting God to be our king, that's the service of the beginning. That's the beginning of the Jewish year. From Tishrei, much more the Jewish universal year. The Jewish year begins from Nisan, but the Jewish universal year begins from Tishrei, and that's the way we're now contemplating the cycle of the year. Beginning from Rosh Hashanah, the 2 days, once more, are the 2 dimensions of the crown. What unites the 2 dimensions of pleasure and will are what's even above those 2, which is called pure, simple faith. Emunah Pshuta. And the service that we serve God on those days of Rosh Hashanah is to coronate, to accept God as king, and to place, as it were, to place a crown on the head of God. That's Rosh Hashanah. So it can't be more explicit than that Rosh Hashanah is the holiday of the crown. What comes after Rosh Hashanah? 10 days later, the 10th day of the year, beginning from Aleph Tishrei, and the first of Tishrei, is Yom Kippur. In a certain way, it's the most sacred day of the year. Achat Bashana, it's the one special, unique day of the year. If Rosh Hashanah is the crown, so that means now we're now contemplating the full array of the Sefirot and the powers of the soul as unfolding themselves around the year, through the cycle of the year, the holidays, in the simplest possible way, just one after the other, straightforward. So it means that Yom Kippur, that Rosh Hashanah is the crown, that Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is wisdom. It's actually the first flash of consciousness in the soul. Why is Yom Kippur? What is the relation between Yom Kippur and insight? Wisdom means insight. First of all, the name of the holiday in the Torah of Yom Kippur is called Chag HeAsor. That's the way the Rambam, for instance, titles the laws pertaining to Yom Kippur. It's Chag HeAsor. It's one a year, but it's the holiday of 10, of the 10th. Why is it the holiday of the 10th? Because that's the date that it falls on. It falls on the 10th of Tishrei. Rosh Hashanah is the 1st of Tishrei and the 2nd of Tishrei. And Yom Kippur is the 10th of Tishrei. But the fact that that's its name means that there's something very essential about 10 and what happens on Yom Kippur, because it's the only holiday that's referred to that its name is the date in the month. There's no other holiday like that. It's called Chag HeAsor, the holiday of the 10th. In Kabbalah, the 10th is Yud, and the Yud is the first letter of God's name, the tetragrammaton, the essential name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And it pertains in the soul or in the Sefirot to Chokhmah, to wisdom. What is the inner property of wisdom? Bitul. Bitul means selflessness or self-annulment. How does that represented in Yom Kippur? On Yom Kippur, there are called 5 afflictions, Hei Inuyim, that we refrain from eating and drinking, and there are 5 different things that we have to refrain from. They're called afflictions of the soul. What is the inner meaning of affliction? It's not something negative. As we'll go on to explain, Yom Kippur is in a certain way a very, very pleasurable holiday. Even though we fast, it's a fast. There's a verse that reads, Lachiotam bera'av, to experience life force from fasting. It's not a fast which you feel bad. Some people are hungry on Yom Kippur, but you shouldn't be hungry on Yom Kippur. You should be elated. It's a fast which elates the soul to the very highest spiritual experience of being like superhuman, becoming an angel on Yom Kippur. Those 5 inuyim of Yom Kippur are 5 states of bitul, of self-nullifying the yesh, the experience of being something, of some independent reality. Once more, through fasting on Yom Kippur, we enter a state of a bitul. I'm not here. And that bitul is the kli, is the vessel for God's unity to reveal itself. The crown, Rosh Hashanah, is what's above the pleasure and the will, as we said a moment ago, is simple faith. Faith in God, and we call on God as our King. But to experience the unity of God, as we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, God is one, that's on Yom Kippur. And that's what atones for the sin. The experience of God's absolute unity takes away all of the blemishes, all of the filth from the soul that we have created through our misdeeds throughout the year. Yom Kippur has also a very special connotation, which also relates to the laws of Yom Kippur. It's just like Shabbos, and it's not just like Shabbos. Shabbos comes every 7 days, but it's called Shabbat Shabbaton, the Shabbos of Shabbos. Just like there's the holy and the holy of the holies. So Yom Kippur, Achat B'Shana, is one, once more, it's called the 10th, but it's also called in the Bible, in the Torah, one. Achat B'Shana, the one. As we said before, what is revealed when a person experiences bitul, unity is revealed. The expression in the Sefirot, he quotes the Maggid of Mezrich, saying that true unity only is revealed in wisdom. And that's exactly what happens on Yom Kippur. And that experience of unity which was revealed because of the bitul, of the fast day of the year, that's what once more, what the cleanser that cleanses all of the blemishes of the soul. Now in Kabbalah, Shabbat in general is wisdom. Every week, every seventh day, the day of Shabbat is an experience of wisdom. How much the more so, Achat B'Shana Yom Kippur, which is the Shabbos of all Shabbases, Shabbat Shabbaton, Chag HaAsor, Achat B'Shana, the 10th, and the one, that it is the ultimate experience of wisdom. What's more, the inner experience of wisdom is bitul, selflessness. What comes after Yom Kippur? After Yom Kippur comes the most joyful festival of the three festivals of the Torah, which is Chag HaSukkot. As we construct the Sukkah, we dwell in the Sukkah for 7 days, and we have a special mitzvah of taking the 4 species, that each of them reflects in a certain way also unity, achdut, and we bring them together, and we shake them together. The lulav and the minim. What power in the soul does that holiday correspond to? And why does it come right after Yom Kippur, just with 4 days in between? The 4 days in between Yom Kippur and the festival of Sukkot in Kabbalah are explained to correspond themselves to the 4 letters of Hashem's essential name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Meaning that from Yom Kippur there is a revelation, or a radiation, we'll call it, of God's name. And then after that name is revealed, then comes the holiday of Sukkot. The holiday of Sukkot is referred to as Zman Simchatenu, the time of our joy. It's the most joyful time of the year. And it's also a holiday, and the whole month of Tishrei is very universal. Even though Yom Kippur seems to be very, very specifically Jewish, because it's Shabbat, it's the Shabbos of Shabbos. But the whole month has to do with judging universally all of mankind, and then when it comes Sukkot, in the time of the temple, Sukkot was a holiday that all of the peoples, all of the nations of the earth received influx and the blessing from the holiday of Sukkot. So once more, there are 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, which correspond to Hashem's name, which radiates or emanates, we'll say, emanates from Yom Kippur. The phrase says, Havaya b'chokhmah. Hashem's name is in wisdom, and it emanates from wisdom, and then comes the companion Sefirah. Chokhmah is the right part of the mind, of the brain. And Binah, the companion understanding, is the left. And Bitul, the inner sense of Chokhmah, is Bitul, selflessness. The inner sense of understanding that's called the father principle and the mother principle. The inner sense of understanding is joy, joyfulness, simcha. And this is the holiday, Zman Simchatenu. The schach and the sukkah that we sit in is referred to in Kabbalah as lights, surrounding lights of of the mother principle. So we see explicitly that Sukkot has to do with the revelation of the mother principle in the soul, which is understanding. We're all encompassed all of Israel can sit, are worthy of sitting in one sukkah, it says. It's a power that encompasses everyone without differentiation. That power to encompass the whole Jewish people is Ima, the mother principle. When we take the four species and shake them, it says before this, in the temple before God, it says, Usmachtem, you shall be joyful. Once more, it's an experience of joy. And joy is the inner property of Ima, of mother. So for all of these reasons, the holiday of Sukkot, Zman Simchatenu, is the mother principle, which is the companion of the father principle, which was Yom Kippur. Then comes the last day of Sukkot, which is a holiday by itself, Shmini Atzeret. And we'll now try to explain more in short. Shmini Atzeret is called the holiday of the actual union between the transcendent manifestation or light of God and the immanent light of God, or in the terminology of the Zohar and Kabbalah, between Kudsha Brichu Shchinte, the Holy One, blessed be He, and His divine presence. And that zivug, that union, just like a marital union, takes place on the last day, the 8th day, Shmini Atzeret, the holiday. And that is the day that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, becomes, as it were, this is the terminology of Kabbalah, pregnant with all of the souls of the Jewish people that are about to be born throughout the whole year. So once more, it's a holiday, and for that reason, on this holiday of Shmini Atzeret, we pray for rain, because rain is a symbol of this marital union and of the beginning of the pregnancy of the Jewish people. Another thing about Shmini Atzeret, it says that everything that we intended, all of these spiritual intentions of Rosh Hashanah, they return on Shmini Atzeret. Just Rosh Hashanah, they were all in a way of elevation. It's called Ratzah, of running upward. On Shmini Atzeret, all of the same intentions, kavanot, are there, but in a way of shov, of return, of coming down to permeate reality. What is the manifestation of crown in the consciousness? It's a da'at. Da'at and binah, da'at, knowledge. Knowledge is a term in the Torah for marital union. So it's very clear that Shmini Atzeret is the holiday of Da'at. On Shmini Atzeret we continue in the joy of Sukkot, and it even becomes greater. We dance with the Sefer Torah. In the diaspora, there are 2 days of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Here in Israel, it's all 1 day. When Mashiach will come, and also be around the world 1 day. We unite. The Jewish people unites with the Torah. That's also like a marital union with the Torah. In any event, the manifestation of the crown in consciousness is Dat. When we draw the Eitz Chaim, the tree of the Sefirot, so Dat is just in place of crown. If we want to have only 10 Sefirot and not 11, as it says in Kabbalah, so you count either Keter or Dat, either the crown or knowledge. Once more, in the cycle of the year, as we're now explaining, that is Rosh Hashanah and Shmini Atzeret, the beginning of the holidays of Tishrei and the end of the holidays of Tishrei. And once more, in Kabbalah, it's explained that the kavanot, the intentions, are identical, just in 2 different directions. What comes after Shmini Atzeret? So now we come back to what we began. The 2 next holidays in the cycle of the year are Chanukah and Purim. What comes after that? Chesed and Gvura. So again, it all fits. We began from Chesed and Gvura, from Abraham and Isaac. And now we went back and we started from the beginning of the year, from Rosh Hashanah. And as we're not explaining, we see that it perfectly fits, one after the other. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, that's called the Mochin, and then comes the beginning, these two holidays of the rabbis, of the sages, is the beginning of the manifestation of the emotions of the heart, love and fear. And once more, it's all under the crown, under the universal crown of Rosh Hashanah, which is for everybody, and it's bringing back sparks from the non-Jewish world, through love on Chanukah and through fear on Purim. What comes after that? But if Chanukah is the holiday of Abraham and Purim is the holiday of Isaac, so the next holiday must be the holiday of Jacob. Jacob is the holiday of the Jewish people. What's the holiday that comes after Purim? Pesach. It goes back to the Torah. We had two from the rabbis. The Chesed and the Gevurah were from the rabbis, and now we come back to the Torah. Under Shmini Atzeret, under that is Tiferet. Tiferet is now Pesach. What relates Pesach to Tiferet and to Yaakov? First of all, Pesach is the holiday of the Jewish people becoming a people. It's called Lidat Ha'am. The significance of the holiday of Passover, of Pesach, is the birth of the people. We said that the souls become pregnant on Shmini Atzeret, but they're born in Pesach, and especially the last day of Pesach. But in general, the holiday of Pesach is that we were in Egypt, and Egypt was like, in a certain way, like a womb, and we were born out of the womb. What is the symbol for that in Kabbalah? That's called Tiferet, being born from the womb of the mother. It's more in Kabbalah, the mother principle, as we said before, is understanding. But in understanding, the most essential emotive power is Tiferet, which is compassion, Rachamim, and it is the emotion of Jacob. And of Jacob is the Jewish people in general, of Israel. And it is born, it is liberated, Zman Cherotenu, before we had Zman Simchatenu, our joy, which was Binah. Now we have Zman Cherotenu, the time of our liberation. That's the celebration of Pesach every year. That liberation is the birth, the new birth of the Jewish people as a people. But once more, it has universal implications to it. The holiday of Pesach, Zecher Yitziat Mitzrayim, and it's called the Son is now born. The Son, S-O-N, is now born from the mother. On Pesach, on the Seder, one of the most important things that we say on the Seder is Keneged Arba'a Banim Dibra Torah, that there are 4 different types of sons. They're all part of Tiferet. Tiferet is the beauty of many, many different colors together. And Tiferet is called the son principle. It's the son. Before we had father and mother, and now we have the son. And there are 4 of them. Keneged Arba'a Banim Dibra Torah. Right, so this is Pesach. Then comes the next holiday, which is the last day of Pesach. Once more, it's a Yom Tov by itself. Shvisha Pesach is the holiday of the splitting of the Red Sea. We sang this song of the sea, which is the greatest song that the Jewish people sang together to God. And it is obviously all-inclusive of all songs that we sing to God. We're supposed to be a choir, the whole Jewish people. An orchestra and a choir, all singing to God. What is the holiday of our becoming a choir? It's the 7th day of Pesach, Shirat Hayam. When you have a choir and an orchestra, you have a conductor. Who's the conductor of the orchestra? Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. How do you say conductor in Hebrew? Lam Natseach, Minatseach. That's the next Sefirah. That's the conclusion. It's called, in the terminology of Kabbalah, it's called Ihu B'Netzach. The Tiferet manifests itself in the next Sefirah, which is Netzach. Netzach means victory, and it means eternity, and it means to conduct an orchestra, or to sing all together. So the singing element of Netzach is most obvious in the Shvisha Pesach, because that's the song of the sea, that we all sang together, the song of thanksgiving to God. But what else is Shvisha Pesach? It's the conclusion of the victory of the Jewish people over the Egyptian exile. There's the final victory of God is the seventh day of Pesach. They create the splitting of the Red Sea. Until then, we were still in a state also of fear, lest the Egyptians pursue us and reach us. But to be released from that, and to reach a state in the soul of perfect confidence. The inner property of Netzach is confidence. Of perfect confidence and trust in Hashem that now we are totally liberated. That's Shvisha Pesach. That corresponds to the next Sefirot Netzach. What comes after that in the holiday of the year? If you didn't make it for the first Pesach, so you have a second chance. The second chance is called Pesach Sheni. The second Pesach, which is on the 14th day of the next month. The month of Iyar, Pesach is Nisan. What do we learn from Pesach Sheni? We learned that it's never too late. You can always rectify no matter what, even if you were impure on the first Pesach, even if you were far away on the first Pesach, you have a second chance. There's always a second chance. What does that holiday relate to or correspond to in the soul? That corresponds to the next Sefirah of Hod. What happens, what is the day, another holiday, a later enacted holiday, right after Pesach Sheni? Lag BaOmer. The most important day of the Sfirat Omer. What a day is that in Lag BaOmer? Hod Shebahod. But each day is an inter-inclusion of two of the Sfirot, of the seven Sfirot. There are 49 days of Sfirat Omer. The Hod of the Hod. The acknowledgement, to acknowledge means to acknowledge something which is above my understanding. Hod is the last Sfirah on the left axis of the Sfirot, which begin with understanding. But Hod is to acknowledge something which I recognize I can't understand. That's Hod. And Hod Shebahod is Lag BaOmer because it has to do with the giving of the deepest mysteries. It's related to Chanukah. Before we said that Chanukah is spreading the light of the mysteries of the Torah. To acknowledge the deepest mysteries of the Torah is Hod Shebahod. What is Pesach Sheni? Pesach Sheni in the Sfirat Omer is also Hod. It's the first day of Hod. It's Chesed Shebahod. So both Pesach Sheni is Hod, and Lag BaOmer, which follows, is completely Hod. Hod Shebahod, the ultimate Hod, and Lag BaOmer is the Hilula, the Yortzeit, the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Pesach Sheni, a few days before, is the passing of Rabbi Meir Bar Anes. Rabbi Meir, of him it says in the sages, Modim Chachamim Rabbi Meir. That we can't understand Rabbi Meir. He is too deep, too profound for us to understand. But we acknowledge him, that he must be right. But his mind is something else altogether. So the expression is Modim Chachamim the Rabbi Meir. Once more, an explicit connection, correspondence between his day, which is Pesach Sheni. It's never too late. There's never a lost cause. You can always rectify. The Sfirah of Hod in Kabbalah also has to do with the power of doing tshuva. We can always return and rectify, repent, That's the Pesach Sheni together with Lag BaOmer. What follows? The next one is one of the three, the second of the three festivals of the written Torah, which is Shavuos. Chag Shavuot, which is the giving the Torah, Zman Matan Toratenu. It now corresponds to Yesod. Yesod is the Tzaddik Yesod Olam, the foundation, the one Tzaddik of every generation. Why is the giving of the Torah now in the Sefirah of Yesod? Because the inner property of Yesod is emet, is truth. The ultimate, consummate, tzaddik, righteous soul is called in the Zohar Zakai Kshot. The righteous, true soul, the true person. Where does truth come from? Everything begins with faith. Faith was at the very beginning of Rosh Hashanah. Now we're coming to truth. The foundation, Yesod HaYesodot, just like the Rambam, Maimonides begins his code. The foundation of the foundations. Yesod HaYesodot, what is the foundation? Truth. What is truth? Truth is the Torah. When God gives us the Torah on Chag Shavuot, He's giving us the truth. This is the truth. And the terminology of the Rambam himself, the Torah and the whole Jewish faith, which is the Torah, is called Dat HaEmet. It's the true religion. But that true religion, obviously, if it's true, as the Rambam also makes it very, very clear, because it's true, that's why it's supposed to be universal. Because there's only one truth, not many truths. But that sense of truth is the secret of the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people, and that's the Yesod. There's a famous saying in the Chazal. We said that Hod has to do with Reb Meir, and Hod Sheba Hod has to do with Rabbi Shimon. What about Yesod? Yesod is Yosef HaTzadik. One of the great sages, his name is Rav Yosef. That Rav Yosef, his gematria equals Mashiach, but it's Mashiach ben Yosef, the Mashiach, the son of Yosef. And he said that my special holiday is Shavuot. Why is my special holiday Shavuot? Because if it would not be for this day, it's not because he was born on Shavuot. He said, if it would not be for this day of Chag Shavuot, how many Joes are there in the marketplace? That's the expression in the Joseph is Joe. He said, it wouldn't be for this day, I would just be another Joe. But because of this day of Shavuot, this Joe now became Rav Yosef, who's Rav Yosef once more, it equals Mashiach. And Yosef, that's the name that corresponds to Yesod, the Sefirah of Yesod. So once more, now we're just going through the year by order, and the holiday of the giving of the Torah, which the truth is Shavuot, the last one. Last one is Malchut. Is there another holiday in the year? Maybe we're out of holidays. If we're out of holidays, then we have nothing for Malchus. That would be called in Kabbalah Mekatzetz B'Netiyot. Mekatzetz B'Netiyot, it's thinking that Malchut is not one of the divine channels. Because Malchut has to do with just simple mundane reality. A kingdom is the reality as we experience on earth. But it says that you're not allowed to differentiate, to split, or to cut off, to sever, God forbid, Malchut from the other Sefirot. So there must be another holiday. But what is it? What's the other? What holiday can be after Shavuot? That's the last holiday. I thought, until I have to think a little bit deeper to realize that there's another holiday. The holiday of Malchut is the holiday of Mashiach, of the future. That today is the opposite of holiday. It's a day of commemoration, but it's not. We wouldn't call it a holiday because holiday is something happy. It's the saddest day of the year. The saddest day of the year is Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the day of the Churban. Churban Bayit Rishon, Churban Bayit Sheni. What was the beginning of Tisha B'Av, the first bad thing that happened. It's called the Chet HaMragdim, the sin of the spies. The sin of the spies is a sin against Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. The land of Israel is Malchut. They wanted to stay in the Chutz Haaretz, in the desert. That was the beginning of Tisha B'Av. But it says, the prophet teaches us that Tisha B'Av, when Mashiach will come, will become the greatest of all of the holidays. Even Purim. More than Purim. More than everything. That's the holiday of Malchut. What comes a few days after? But as we said, the Lag BaOmer comes a few days after Pesach Sheni. What comes a few days after Tisha B'Av? Tu B'Av, Chamisha Asar B'Av, which is once more the greatest holiday of the year. But actually, the initial of the 15th of Av is because they stopped in the desert on the 40th year. There was a decree that that whole generation would die in the desert. But it stopped on the last Tisha B'Av, but they weren't sure that maybe they didn't calculate the days of the lunar month correctly. So before they rejoiced, they waited another few days when it was a full moon, then they understood that Tisha B'Av, the ninth has passed. So actually, the initial 15th of Av is just a sign, a seal, that the ninth of Av has transformed from bad to good. Once more, the 15th day of Av, which is the most joyous day of the year, is the sign, it's a sign of what in the future will be, that the death, it says about Malchut, it says that its feet descend into death. But when that stops, when death will be over, bilaha mavet lanetzach, then we wait another few days and we make sure that it's for sure, that it really happened. And that's the festival of Chamisha Asar B'Av. So that's the Malchut of the year. That initially, right now, Malchut is still sad, but Malchut is going to be the greatest and the most joyful of all. So we began with the two holidays of Chanukah and Purim, and we see how now the whole cycle of the year can be seen to correspond to the 10 Sefirot in this most direct order. So, L'chaim, it should be a freilich in Chanukah, a happy Chanukah for the whole year.